And it's preparing the live stream right now. And it's preparing the live stream right now. Okay, hey everyone. Welcome to a very special edition of Return to the Living Geeks. I have a really great co-host with me, Brandon Perras, who is the director of Death Drop Gorgeous. And we have a very special guest in the house today. It is John A Hernandez. He's the creator and actor behind Stan the Mechanic. Hey, really happy to have you on here. And we are hell raising some money for a really great cause, which is the Ali Forney Center. And this was founded in 2002, and it helps LGBTQ youth with food and shelter. And just to kick this off, tell me why this charity is kind of like near and dear to you.
They're based in New York City, and Ali Forney was a 13-year-old gender non-conforming youth that lived on the streets of New York City. And their mission was to educate a lot of their friends and people they would run into on the streets about sex and HIV prevention, because this was the mid 90s. And then unfortunately they were murdered, and the center is named in their honor. And the Ali Forney Center, I wrote down a couple of statistics. They help over 2,000 youths per year through a drop-in center, and they have a street outreach team for to teach people about safe sex and HIV prevention, which is something near and dear to my heart. I was a kid of the 90s, so I saw what it did between having family members that died of AIDS and just watching the epidemic unfold back then. So it's not over yet, and just a special shout out that the 27th is National HIV Testing Day. So everybody should know their status and get out there and do that. And Ali Forney plays a big role in ensuring that and taking care of the homeless LGBT youth of the city, because we've come a long way, but we got a long way to go. There's still a lot of kids getting kicked out just for being who they are. And they do a lot of great work to house these kids and also give them the tools they need to kind of start their own lives. So please give generously.
Yeah, it's a great nonprofit. I was, of course, really happy that you picked it. I was doing a lot of research and checking it out, and it's such an amazing thing that they're doing. Like, just not only do I hope we can raise some money, but it's also some awareness, like to be aware of this great foundation and like the things that they're doing is awesome. So thank you for that.
Sure.
So yeah, gosh, I am so excited. I figure it's summer, so let's talk about some summer slashers. It's kind of my favorite. We have a bona fide slasher director in the house also.
Hey.
That is so awesome. So I just to dive right in, I want to talk about Sleepaway Camp, which is one of my favorites. Actually, this one's kind of cool. It is signed.
Nice.
Good.
On the back. Yeah, so it's interesting because this, I know we talked a little bit about this before we started going live, but this one is kind of controversial, which I kind of like. I want to say this carefully because I do very much respect the problems people could have with this movie, with the like trans allegory. Spoiler alert, but the ending's very famous, so I feel like we've all kind of know what that's about. But what kind of struck me is it kind of has. I think it was kind of like the first time in like a mainstream horror movie that I saw like two gay dads in a really kind of just matter of fact, sort of nonchalant kind of way. But not only that, but just like in a really loving kind of way. So I'll throw it out to you guys. What do you think about the movie?
I personally love it. I view Angela's character as more of an anti-hero. I think the whole aspect of her may or may not being trans at the end, I'm not sure like how that person identifies. I think the real enemy in that is like the weird aunt that forced gender on her. But I think like all the people that she knocks off are like they're the pedophile cook, like the rapists, fucking BFF for the main character. So in a way, like she's doing the Lord's work. So I don't know. I was into it. I think the movie is really well done. It's as corny as some of the scenes are. I think it does a really good job of building a lot of tension. And there's not a lot of gore in it either. So it does. I think it's very atmospheric and well done. And I think the second one is where the corn comes in and it's a fucking blast. So I don't know.
Oh yeah. Listen, we stand these movies here. They're like so good.
And you got the super rare, the rare slipcover versions that you can't get anywhere anymore. I see you.
Yeah, no, I'm such a huge fan of these. I remember ordering them like ASAP. I actually have the poster for this one still. Which I like, it's kind of like Lord of the Rings, like with what was it, Dragon's Smaug or whatever. That's like pouring over my preciouses. Yeah. So John, what do you think of this movie? You're a fan?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Absolutely. Taking out the controversial ending or whatnot, it rules as a slasher. I mean, who thinks to like stuff a curling iron up someone's vagina to kill them? I mean, that's I can think of anytime we do genital mutilation, I'm there for it, which is why Death Drop Gorgeous is another favorite of mine. So I mean, I loved it. And I'm not trans, I can't speak from that viewpoint. I know people are kind of all over the map on it, but I would say just meeting Felissa Rose once in your life, that woman doesn't have an angry or intolerant bone in her body. So I know she was a kid when she filmed it, but I don't think she would proudly be an ambassador for it if she in any way felt or thought that it was harmful towards the gay community, especially because she's like BFFs with Mark Patton. So she's very big about her gays. She loves her gays. So, I mean, just great. And taking all that out, man, the guys are dressed in these like hoochie shorts and these like crop tops and like it gives me everything. You got gay dads, you got like scantily clad men, and you got awesome creative kills. There's nothing I don't love about it. And then, in terms of Angela's journey, all I could say is like I always find it interesting that when we see her again in part 2, she is living her life as a woman. So her aunt forced her into it initially, but it seems by maybe part 2 that she does identify as female. I don't know. So there's a lot of room to discuss and debate there. But all that aside, yeah, it's one of my favorites actually.
Oh yeah, it's great, and it's like I like how we touched on like the creative kills. That's kind of amazing. I can't think of the guy's name, but like he like runs the camp. Do y'all know what I?
The older dude.
Yeah.
I feel like if they ever did like a live action Simpsons movie, he is like Mo Sislak. Like if you do like a side by side. But yeah, oh my gosh, it's so awesome. Like and it's funny because like I know we'll get more into the sequels, but like as much as I love the original, I kind of love the sequel maybe a little bit more just because it goes full like campy, really ridiculous, over the top. I like a lot of movies, and this is also what I really liked about Death Drop Gorgeous, where it like plays with like the slasher conventions, but it's very tongue in cheek. Like it very much kind of knows what it is, which is great. Like this is kind of everything you need to know about like how goofy and off the wall this is. So this is a question for both y'all, but like, how old were you when you first saw Sleepaway Camp? I'll start with John.
Actually not it. I came to it rather late, so I only saw it for the first time. I'm gonna say maybe, oh God, 4 or 5 years ago or something like that. Like, I was a kid of like, it was all like Michael, Jason, Freddy, and then as I got older, I really like took a deep dive into horror. So I came to this one a bit late, and I do definitely lean towards sleazy movies. So this fits right in with my image and my preference. So I love them, and then once I saw the first, I just devoured the rest of them. And also, if I can, I just need to make a shout out to Side Pony Judy, one of the best villains in
Yes.
horror history. And and also special shout out to a drag queen in New York named Coma White, who's a big horror fan. And she did a whole photo shoot as Judy, and it slays. So
Oh
I
my gosh,
encourage
that's
everybody
amazing.
to check out her Instagram because it's lovely. So,
Yeah,
but yeah, so I came to them kind of late, but definitely love them.
awesome.
Yeah.
How about you? How about you, Brandon?
Well, standing that sexy sleeveless, you can meet me at the waterfront after the social. Time, so. Oh, I was this is seventh grade. Seventh grade is kind of when I did my deep dive into horror. I grew up in this tiny little town in northern Vermont. We had just a bank, a video store, a tiny library, and a gas station. And me and my friends, like, I used to be terrified of horror. And I was like fourth to sixth grade. I read all the book, like, the scariest stories I've ever heard books, but the movies like horrified me. So I kind of got over that like sixth, seventh grade-ish, and we just rent every possible horror movie at our little video store. The sleepaway camps were in there. I definitely remember those. Totally loved it. Didn't really think anything twice about the ending at the time. Just kind of, we didn't really care. We thought it was fun.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I was trying to think. I think that it was probably when the Anchor Bay DVDs came out, or maybe even the VHS, because I'm old and crickety VHS. But yeah, so I was probably maybe like still in high school when I checked this out. And yeah, I loved it. Definitely, whenever I found out that they had sequels to this, I ran right out and rented those. I remember like as soon as I could, I like bought these on. I think besides Laserdisc, I've had these on every like home video format possible. Probably 4K coming soon, maybe, and then 8K, and then whatever. So. Point is, I will always want to own these movies because they are awesome. So the sequels obviously kind of have they recast, and they have Pamela Springsteen, which I think is so kind of wild. It kind of blows my mind that she's like in the part 2 and 3. I think she's amazing, and it's interesting. I know it's a Scream Factory release. The word was that they contacted Pamela Springsteen to be a part of the extras, and she declined, which is kind of a bummer because I'm like, you're Pamela Springsteen. Like, why? I mean, why don't you think that this is like rad as hell? You know what I mean? Like, she gives a great performance. I don't think she has
Yeah.
anything to be ashamed of. Like, I mean, of course she like sings in it too, which again, so awesome. The Happy Camper song.
I loved her character. She nailed it. I think she did a great job. I didn't know that she was ashamed of that performance or role. That's too bad.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's a shame because I've never seen an interview where she talked about it, like maybe outside of like a at the time promo. So yeah, that's a shame, but like I can love it enough for the both of us. You know.
Has she ever done like the convention circuit? Like, because she would seem like a shoo-in,
Yeah.
but I guess if she is embarrassed by them, then maybe not. But
I don't believe I've ever seen her do like any kind of convention stuff, which is again a pretty unfortunate. But I mean, I guess when you're like a Springsteen, like you're not worried about money, I would
true.
assume. So
Yeah.
he probably doesn't need to work, but or whatever. But yeah, I think she's fantastic. I like part three, but it definitely is like a huge dip in quality. Is it I'm trying to think if like it was the same directors too though, right?
Sure.
Yes. And I like three because it's very grungy. It's very like it definitely ups the sleaze factor, which of course, like we all love.
Mhm.
But yeah, so I mean, besides the sleepaway camp movies, like what are some of your like favorite kind of like go-to summer slashers? And I'll Brandon, I'll kick this off to you first now.
Sure. I made a top 10 list, but I can do a couple. I think like I kept the supernatural stuff out. I feel like your you know, typical slasher shouldn't be supernatural, but like everyone always talks about like Nightmare on Elm Street and stuff, but I feel like it's more like a fantasy slasher, like more fantasy. But I think my all-time favorite is the original Texas Chainsaw Massacre. You can just like smell that movie through the screen. It's gross,
Yeah.
it's hot, it's grungy, it's grainy. It's just even just down to like the conceptualization of the trailers and just how they did everything, which is pretty brilliant. Kind of saying it's based on a true story, which it barely is, and the ad campaigns are just really well done. And I don't know, it's a good one. Just looking at like the budget they had to work with and making something that effective with that little gore was great. Another one that's very atmospheric and just feels like summertime. It's hot as fuck.
Yeah.
For sure. What did you think of this the new one that just came out on Netflix?
I surprisingly, I'm probably the only person that liked it because I did not like any of the remakes at all. This one I felt was corny and trashy enough where like it kind of worked. I think they could have went a little further with the gore. I think they skimmed out on some stuff, but yeah, I don't know. I think it was the most self-aware out of the series. The rest of them, I'm not a fan of.
Yeah, I'm with you on that because people were angry about this like new one, and I was just like, it gave me everything I wanted. I outside of what they did with Sally, but I mean, people love Sally, but when I think of like the great final girl, she's not
Yeah.
there. She survived by accident. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
God bless.
Speaking of hot mechanics, the mechanic in the new one is that was nice.
Oh,
yeah.
yes, a nice touch. Yeah, no, that's rad. I would say my all-time favorite slasher, I have to give it to my lover Michael Myers, but if we're going specifically summertime / camp slashers, you got to give it to my boy Jason, and I know we need to have a bigger conversation about Friday the 13th, but I would just throw The Burning out there. I really love The Burning. Savini in his heyday and all the messiness of the camper setting that guy on fire and then him coming back to get them. So I really like the atmospheric stuff of it. I'm surprised there weren't any sequels to it, which seems like a miss for the 80s. But I think The Burning was great. Anytime Savini could do that whole like throat gag where he just puts that putty on the throat and stabs it like he did in Friday the 13th, I'm here for it. So yeah.
George Costanza.
Oh yeah.
That's right. It's so funny because that's like was a really early, if not maybe one of his first roles in that. Yeah, I would have to like second The Burning. That's such a classic. It's one of those. Now that is a movie that I came to much later, when I was like really maybe in my 20s, when I was like deep diving into some more maybe obscure. I mean, I guess it's not really obscure now, but I guess at the time it didn't have a lot of like home video presence and stuff.
It was a hard one to find for a long time. That was a tricky one.
But yeah, I love it. I love the kind of like taking the Cropsey mythology and folding that into a slasher. I think that's such a cool concept. And Madman is one of my favorites, like all-time favorites. Like I love that we live in a world where we have a 4K beautiful copy of that movie. Like I think about everything that's going to shit right now, but then I try to focus on like some, like good stuff, like that movie's on 4K and it's awesome. Yeah, that Madman's another one that sadly kind of never got any sequels, which I always thought was kind of weird because they set up this really interesting almost kind of it's funny you mentioned like supernatural slashers because he's almost like a supernatural figure. And then you can kind of summon him. So that's,
Yeah.
And yeah, you always don't hate a big daddy bear coming to get you. So
I love all the accents in it too. You can just hear the like, I can't remember if it was like Jersey or New York, but like all the characters have a little bit of a.
yeah.
It's great. I love it.
Yeah, that was cool. I actually got to meet the guy that plays Madman Mars. He was so sweet. This was at a convention a few years ago. And again, that's another one that I came super late to. It's one that I've always really heard of. Vinegar Syndrome had a nice Blu-ray at the time, and it just kind of coincided with this reunion. So I actually ended up watching it and then going to this cast reunion. So that was pretty cool. Yeah. I'm trying to think like other really like good go-tos. I mean, that's like for me, the Trinity is like Sleepaway Camp, Madman, and The Burning. But there's so many great ones. Well, what you said about Friday the 13th, that's obviously a classic. What do y'all think about the remake? I know that's a little bit controversial. I'll kick it off to John. What do you think?
I loved it. I'm one of those people, like it kind of gave me the hits of parts 1 through 4, everything I liked about 1 through 4, and kind of amped it a bit. I enjoyed it. I know there was some drama over like Kane Hodder not playing Jason and whatnot, but that was kind of a precedent as of Freddy versus Jason, so I wasn't that bummed out for him, but I really enjoyed it. I like that we got both Sackhead and Hockey Mask Jason. I love that he was a tall ass dude, like big, more intimidating. I was with it, so I'm one of those. I don't know.
Yeah, that's awesome. Brandon, what'd you think of it?
Since Stan likes it, I'll behave. But my number one gripe with it was just the lack of gore. I felt it was like the kills were just so safe, minus the machete one, and I think they could have, part of the joy of those films was like, Tom Savini kind of brought those to life. I think if it was a lot of like off-screen kills, I think the running time and the atmosphere for Friday the 13th would have been as successful. So I think like when you have the ability to have a larger budget and you could pay for better special effects, I was really baffled and confused as to why it was so safe. You kind of, I think that's one of the hallmarks of the genre is like the fun kills. I was kind of, I don't know, I think they could have stepped it up a little bit.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm so like hot or cold on this one. Like I really appreciate the fact that as you mentioned that it's like a little bit of like parts 1, 2, 3, and 4 kind of like they do this really interesting thing where they almost kind of speed through some of the important beats from the original couple films, and I really appreciate that. Yeah, I definitely also agree. Like the kills could have been better. I don't know. There's just aspects of his character that I think are maybe not what I think of when I think of Jason, but also this is a series that is wildly out of continuity. So like whatever, who cares? So that doesn't bother me too much. I do kind of like the humor in it, like the dark humor is one thing that I always really like about that. Like there's a scene where a guy's like playing hockey a little bit and like just before he gets killed by Jason, and I'm like, oh my gosh, that is so hilarious because we never kind of got like that hockey reference because he wears a hockey mask. It's just because Shelley had it in the original continuity or whatever. So I don't know. I mean, it's such a wild franchise that I don't ever really take anything too seriously. I would love to see so they've done a lot of stuff with Pamela in the expanded kind of universe, like in comics and stuff. And gosh, I think that would be a really cool route to take the series. Which I believe like they just kind of settled that lawsuit, so we should be in theory getting something soon. Which is funny because this would be the 13th Friday the 13th film.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, I would love to see like a Pamela Voorhees kind of prequel. Just kind of like how I would love to see like we can get more into Nightmare on Elm Street a little bit later, but like I would love to see like a Freddy kind of prequel with like a young Robert Englund, like his origin story and stuff. But I don't know. I mean, I know it's interesting. Like I know a lot of fans kind of want that, but studios usually don't listen to us, so I don't know. But yeah, now besides the first film, do y'all have like a favorite like sequel, Friday the 13th sequel? Like what is your absolute favorite? We'll go with Brandon first.
I love the seventh one. Name alone on that. I like the idea of like them trying to do something new and like bring in a girl with telekinetic powers. I think the kills in that one are pretty fun. Yeah, no, there's something about that that some charm to it. It brought something new to the table.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's definitely a solid one. I think for myself, I kind of go back and forth between two of them. It's depending on when you catch me, it's either going to be 4 or 6. So like those are definitely my two favorite. I think maybe 6 a little more because like since I do horror hosting, like we always have our eyes peeled for like the stupid little winks and nods to the genre. And there was so much Boris Karloff shit in that one, and I just ate that up. I love that. And I also love that it was actually in an active camp. There were actually kids there. Like it kind of upped it a little bit because the kids were in danger. And I don't know. I just really dug that one. And number 4 is just, classic. I mean, you can't go wrong with that. And I have like, just realizing, because I have like any horror fan, I have like a million horror t-shirts, but I have a lot of Jason Voorhees in my collection. So we have the same birthday, so I have an affinity for Jason, I guess, in that respect. But yeah, I think 4 and 6 are the strongest. 4 story-wise and 6 just for the kitsch value, I think.
Nice. Yeah, I love 6. I am such a huge fan of that. I love how like meta it is. I know that's maybe what some people don't like about it, but I love it. I love everything about it. It was really fun because I got to interview Tom McLaughlin about it, and he was hilarious and talking about ghosts during our interview, which was about that. But yeah, it was pretty awesome. So yeah, I would say like 6 is a good one. It's funny because I know people love 4, but like I kind of think 3 is super underrated. I think I'm probably alone in that one.
3 is fun.
I mean, listen, it has like that sweet disco remake theme at the beginning, and I don't know, I kind of love the characters. I love that that's where he gets his mask. I think the kills are super great. I don't know, I think it like kind of still has a little bit of tongue-in-cheek. Like it is definitely not like I mean, I don't know if like any maybe outside of the first film like took itself super seriously. Like they've always kind of had a little bit of fun with it. I don't know, what do y'all would say is the worst one, like the one that you absolutely detest? And I'll kick it over to John first on that.
Yeah, I mean, instantaneously knee jerk. Fuck Jason Takes Manhattan, dude. I cannot stand that one. Like, it's got some cool kills and elements to it, but it was just so dumb. How do they get like a yacht into the Crystal Lake and like and get to New York and like toxic sludge? And that one's just I couldn't, like, and like a lot of people hate 5. I will take part 5 any
Mm.
day over that one. I just can't with part 8. And I love Kane Hodder. I have a soft spot because he's this big tough guy, but he's a big fucking teddy bear, and he's all smushy and sweet, and I love him. And so I hate to talk bad about any of the ones he was in, but that one was garbage, bro.
Yeah.
Like I can't.
Yeah, Jason 8 is a chore. My least favorite, and I still to this day have PTSD from it, is Freddy versus Jason. I can't. I rewatched it again recently just to torture myself, and it gets worse with time. I just cannot believe they finally meet each other, and that's what we get. It is abysmal. The writing, the script, it is just so bad. I shut it off like 25 minutes in, so I knew what else was coming, and oh my god, the franchises deserve better. That is just, they need written apologies from everyone involved on that project.
So I would definitely say Jason Takes Manhattan is my absolute least favorite by a mile. Also something kind of controversial. I've never seen Jason X. I know it's something I feel like I need to kind of rectify that at some point.
I'm kind of jealous that you haven't seen it.
Treat yourself.
But it's so funny because I have people on both spectrums that are like, yeah, you'll love it. It's so campy. It's great. I know David Cronenberg's in it, right? Like,
yeah.
And then I have other people that's like, yeah, do yourself a favor. Don't watch it. So I'm a glutton for punishment, so I probably will check it out at some point. I think it would be a lot of fun to maybe do it with a group.
It's a drinking movie for sure. It's another one that just suffers from too much off-screen kills. There's a couple cool gore scenes, but again, it's like you're making this like hyper camp Jason X in space thing. It's like, why would you skimp on the gore? Like, and there's so many opportunities to show some graphic stuff. I don't know if there's like a weird like unrated version somewhere, but the version I watched was kind of like meh. I mean, it's campy. It's campy as fuck. You got to go into it like it's tongue in cheek. It's got some highlights, but yeah, it's
it's not great. I enjoyed by far for the camp value. I mean, for that alone, it's definitely worth a watch because like me and a group of friends, we call ourselves the Hairy Daddies, and we started like the group of us, and it's gay and straight guys all together. We kind of Zoom each other on Sunday afternoons, and we have this whole intricate voting process, and we pick a movie every week to watch.
Oh, that's awesome.
And yeah, I showed them Death Drop Gorgeous and brought them into the fold with that. That went over very well with them. But Jason X was one of our favorite watches as a group. We had all seen it, but it's just so dumb that it's just a blast to watch. And there's one kill that's especially probably famous throughout the franchise, and for that alone, it's worth taking a look. So I don't want to spoil it, but.
I was gonna say, is that the famous backpack or not backpack, sleeping bag to the tree?
No, that's no. They kind of homage the sleeping bag kill in that one, but there's a separate one with that involves like some cryogenic freezing. That
I did see a clip of that. No, that group sounds awesome. Also, by the way. Definitely invite me.
All right. Shout out to the Hairy Daddies.
I don't know. I think I'm too young to be a daddy, but if people want to call me that, I'm fine. That's fine. I definitely need to check that out. I mean, I totally agree though with Freddy versus Jason. It's kind of a letdown. I know pretty notoriously that was in development hell for like what seemed like forever, and they could never, I think what was holding them up was like they could never figure out like who would like win, because you have like the two franchises, and I guess like they kind of did like a sort of draw kind of compromise, which is like, I guess, I mean, essentially Jason wins, but then you have like Freddy doing the whole like headless wink situation. So I don't know.
If you go into like the camp thing, it's about as campy as you can get. There's some dialogue and lines in that movie that I cannot believe were put on the paper. I think like Kelly Rollins, which she's like, well, fire kills Freddy and water kills Jason. It's so bad. Like, I don't know. I mean, if you're like, I guess like if you were younger and then you go see these movies, you have like, the franchises under your belt from when you were a kid, you love them so much, and you go and see this pile of shit. Maybe it's like a different experience, but like it was this head scratching, just my huge disappointment. I almost cried at the end of how bad it was.
Yeah. I mean, definitely because expectations were so high. This was something that they were kicking around ever since like Jason Goes to Hell. It had that kind of coda with the Freddy's glove coming out and grabbing the mask. I mean, I'm not somebody that's always like remake something because the last one sucked, but also, can we remake that one because the last one sucked? So like Elm Street's another really great film, and I think it's always interesting specifically to kind of talk about part 2, which has a lot of like queer I don't even know if you could call it subtext. I feel like it's just like text at that point. So it's interesting because I came to that franchise like pretty young, and even as like a young like queer person, I never really got the symbolism, I guess. Well, again, looking back at it now, I'm like, how did I not see this? I mean, it's like very, very like blatant, but I don't know. As a young teenager, I guess I didn't really think about that.
No, same here. Yeah. I'm with you on that. It was right over my head too when I was a kid. I never picked up on it.
Yeah, it's so funny because now I'm like, there's like S&M, there's whippings, there's like
Brother Bar.
Yeah, that, oh my God, that whole scene. I feel like we could just do a whole podcast about that one scene, really.
For sure.
Like, isn't Bob Shea's like the bartender in that, right?
Yeah.
Oh my God. See, I don't know like important things, but then I know shit like that. So
that's important.
Yeah, I think so too. But yeah, I think one of the things, now I'm assuming y'all seen Scream Queen, the documentary on that. First off, a hell of a movie. It's one of those that was such a interesting and also really heartbreaking kind of film. And just it really kind of like so it's interesting because we did a podcast on Elm Street too, and it was such an interesting conversation because there was so many like facets of like how you could potentially like read and take this movie. I don't think that I know that it was maybe meant to be sort of homophobic, but I think that it's interesting that a lot of people want to take it back, reclaim it. I think that that's a really valid sort of position to take. I love it. It's always been a favorite of mine. It's always one of those movies that, like, if I kind of need like a pick me up, I watch it. I mean, so clearly, I don't think that it's. I don't know. My takeaway is it's not overtly homophobic, but I certainly understand the other kind of side of that coin. But what do y'all think? I'll let Brandon. I'll let you go first.
Sure. So I want to give a shout out to Roman and Tyler, the creators of that documentary too. They had a huge hand in helping us with Death Drop too.
Yeah.
They were like pivotal with a lot of the stuff that we did. Two amazing human beings too. They're excellent. Tyler actually just recently came down and helped us with a huge shoot for our movie too. So they're just great dudes. The Nightmare on Elm Street 2, I watched the documentary, and I think it's still like unclear as to, I forgot the name of the guy that they approached the director. He just definitely kept things very vague as to what he was doing. I mean, they had kind of hinted at like that Krueger was like almost like an allegory for HIV. And also it was just interesting that like they never really got, I feel like you never really get the clarity because he just kind of was playing both sides of the fence. So we don't really know what his intent was. I think it'll eventually come out, but I could be totally wrong. I might have missed it in the documentary, but I feel like it's still very vague. The film itself, I really enjoy. I think it's kind of hot. There's some, as a little kid watching that, there was some scenes in there that I enjoyed. I thought his best friend was pretty cute back in the day. I love the weird dogs with the human faces at the end.
Yeah.
That was a nice touch. It was always creepy. I liked his little fag hag. I thought she was great, and, like early ally. But yeah, I don't know. It's an odd one. It's definitely out of context there that hasn't been explored enough yet.
Yeah,
for sure. I agree with a lot of that. Like it's I always said it was always my least favorite of the franchise, to be 100%, but I've watched it more and more in the last couple of years, and it's I've definitely found more stuff that I enjoy about it. I do remember being a kid and especially seeing the gym teacher strapped up in the shower and like the towel smacking his ass. And as a kid, I didn't have the words for it, but it was doing something for me. So
you're pressing pause.
it was weird. I definitely remember it like being super intrigued by that, and that's what kept me going back to it as a kid, not because I was afraid or anything like that. I just wanted to see that because whatever. Yeah, it's I don't really read homophobia into it. There is some sort of allegory there because, Freddy comes out from inside of Jesse, like quite literally, like he literally claws his way out of his body at one point in the movie, and I just remembered just being kind of silly. But what I did love about it, and I still do, I love the idea of a final boy, which again, my hat's off to you, Sir Brandon. I mean, I love seeing that because queer people love these movies so much, and not that I have anything against the final girl, but it's nice to see especially I guess with Nightmare 2, ourselves quite literally represented on the screen in that respect. But yeah, so I've grown to love it. I went to the New York premiere when the guys premiered it here in the city, and they brought Mark in and they did the Party at Rock Bar, which is our big kind of like bear bar, but the owner is a huge horror fan, so a lot of horror stuff goes down there. So that's where they hosted the after party. So nothing but love for Nightmare 2 at this late stage of the game. Grown to love it. Number 6 is my least favorite now.
Number 6 is the score.
And I think there's a larger, more interesting conversation too about like, it's even okay to have like queer villains. Like I think that's like it's really interesting. I watched a really great trans documentary where they were talking about specifically trans in media, film and television, and it's like it's always kind of iffy when you tell like a group of people they can't or cannot be either the villain or the like protagonists. Like of course I get that you don't ever want to see your community in a bad light, but also like I mean the villains are awesome, right? Like they're usually like easily the best part of, well, I mean like Disney movies, like there's a lot of like queer coded Disney villains, but I mean I always thought that those were like my favorite parts of the movie. Like Little Mermaid was like so I was kind of like at probably y'all too, but like just at a kind of a great age when like Little Mermaid and all those movies kind of came out. And yeah, like Ursula, I love her. I have a Funko of her somewhere up here. I don't know if you can see that, but she's up there. She watches over me. So but yeah, so what do y'all think about like is that something y'all would like to see more of, is like queer villains, like really fabulous queer kind of anti-heroes even. So I'll kick it off to I'm not sure who went last time, but we'll go with John again.
I always said the villains are definitely the coolest characters, and we wouldn't have these franchises or any of these movies without queer villains. And Ursula, sure, that's divine. I mean, for the love of God, like John Waters is like a personal hero, and I my day job is I write for two magazines, queer40.com and vacationer.travel, and he was our cover star for April, and I was able to like have a conversation with him, and he's every bit as cool, chill, and laid back as you would think. So just to get that out there, just because divine has just always been something like I'm a big brassy fucking bitch too, so it's like, you know what I mean, like that is like my spirit animal. So yes with Ursula, and yes with if we're going to have queer heroes, we know in our day-to-day lives there are queer villains in our community, so it's like it's not necessarily a bad thing. Why not? Hell yeah. Like I would love to see it. Like, Gloria Hole, give it to me, like more of that, though I will say like one queer villain I didn't love because I feel like they copped out with it was high tension, but we could get into like, queer horror stuff later. But yes, a long way to get to yes, but yes, nonetheless.
No, I agree. I think the way trans people are treated in our society, even in the LGBTQ, I mean, why wouldn't they want to go on a killing spree? I mean, I still feel like they're still discriminated against, even at our own clubs and bars. There's still a lot of issues there that need to be unpacked. So pushing someone to the brink of that, I mean, I could definitely, it's plausible that they would want to kill people, and I kind of would cheer them on. And yeah, so I mean, it makes sense, and I understand like why some people get upset about it. But I think again, you have to like look at what the intent of the film is and what the intent of these killers are. I don't think I've really seen any yet that have really exploited the trans community that have made them look bad. I mean, I kind of don't blame them for killing people, honestly. I don't know if that's all right to say, but yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, definitely. Like, and intent. You put it perfectly. I think, if it's like a queer creative team that's doing it, that's handling it in a way that's, I mean, yeah, like I feel like you should be able to go there. Just I guess be mindful of like how you go there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, but yeah, like hell yeah, I agree with y'all. Like I just yeah, I mean, and again, I understand because it is such a sensitive topic that I think it's like that because we've been burned so many times with like really poor media representation. Not to bring up Sleepaway Camp again, but I can and will always. But it's I I get where other people are coming from when they say that it's problematic or transphobic. I don't agree with it, but I'm willing to have that dialogue and be open and hear the other perspective on that. Again, I think it's awesome. I think it's kind of, if anything, I think it's fabulous representation. Like I love it. She's amazing. Miss Rose is amazing. So it's across the board kind of great. So yeah, I think if it was just handled right, I think it could be really awesome. And I think that that's something that, yeah, I understand kind of why, that's a little bit touchy, but it's, I mean, if you give them, as you say, like a proper motivation, like, yeah, they're pissed off and that's why they're killing people, lashing out. I mean, yeah, I get it.
Especially what's going on right now too. It's like,
yeah,
it's fucking insane.
So, now, not just like slashers, but like, what is y'all's like go-to like comfort horror film? Like, what is like one or two titles that you put on and like that puts you in kind of an awesome mood? Brandon, if you want to kick it off this time.
Sure. I mean, the first two Hellraisers are probably my favorite horror movie. I'm a huge Clive Barker fan. And I just think those two are brilliant. I'm a huge fan of horror fantasy, and I think the darker they can get, the better. I just think those two films are absolutely brilliant. I know like the budgetary restraints kind of damage them a little bit, but if you go into it just thinking about the story itself and like what they're trying to show you, it's just brilliant. Clive Barker's a genius. Second, comfort horror, man, I'm all over the place with that too. It depends what kind of I guess I'll have to go with fuck, I don't know. Oh man, that's a really tough one. Yeah, and I'll go with those two for now. I'm also a huge fan of 80s slashers, so like that could be a rotating cast of what my second choice would be. I love Blood Rage. I love Mutilator. All those are just corny ass slashers. I love putting those on because they're just super. Summer Party Massacre 2, like another summertime slasher, which is a blast. I really enjoy all those too. Chopping Mall, Maniac Cop 1 and 2. All those are kind of up there.
Yeah. No, it's funny because I like bless you for mentioning Blood Rage. I love that movie so much. I feel like we were already really good friends, but now this just solidifies it for me. Yeah. So John, what's your kind of go-to comfort horror movies?
Yeah, I'm gonna join in and sing the praises of Blood Rage as well. I love that one. That's a personal favorite. And then also I just adore that one. But for me, I can literally watch and go to sleep because of it being comforting, not because it's boring. It's the original Halloween, like I could put it on and I've seen that a million times, but and I know that's like a popular corny choice, but that is the absolute truth. My home is like littered with Halloween memorabilia,
Nice.
Autographs, posters, masks, all that stuff. Michael is my thing. I liked Halloween Kills. Come fight me. Like, you know what I mean? Like, I know people hated it. It's just, I took myself completely out of that and just the kills were fun to watch. The story was ridiculous. I'm not going to defend all that. And the Evil Dies Tonight bullshit was dumb, but it was entertaining to watch Michael just go on a rampage. So I'll give it that. But anyway, sorry, tangent. The other one that I can really just put on and just vibe with, Poltergeist. I love Poltergeist. That still holds up to this day. Yeah, it's still frightening. It's still entertaining. It's still it just checks all my boxes. So nice. That's another for sure comfort horror film for me.
Nice. Great choices across the board. And I do want to kind of talk about Hellraiser a little bit more with like queer horror and Clive Barker. But I would say for me, Creepshow is definitely one of those like I can throw it on. I know I'm going to have a great time. It's kind of the perfect blend of like big pulpy horror, like mixed with like easy comics. There's I've always had the biggest crush on Tom Atkins, so there's that. And I met him. He was one of the sweetest guys you never want to meet. So that's awesome. So Creepshow definitely. It's a little bit like nihilistic, of course, but like Night of the Living Dead was just such a formidable and formative kind of film for me. Like I'm sure y'all had this too, but it's like it's one of these movies that was so special and so mind blowing to me when I first saw it. Like I can kind of still remember like discovering it and just how it made me feel and how like it still like holds up so well. Like, even maybe even more so, I guess, in this kind of crazy landscape that we find ourselves in. So yeah, those were definitely like kind of like my movies that I really always kind of go to. Killer Clowns from Outer Space is another one that, when I'm kind of in that like certain mood or headspace, like I love. I couldn't wrap my mind around somebody that wouldn't like that movie. It's so cheesy and campy, yeah, but it's really creative. I feel like we kind of forget just how like inventive that was. And of course the Chiodo brothers has kind of went on to do amazing things, and are still doing awesome stuff. I don't have their IMBD up, but I'm sure they're doing like amazing stuff still. So yeah, those are definitely my go-to films. And yeah, like um, as far as like queer horror films, I always kind of try to get into like some old James Whale stuff. Assuming y'all are fans of like his movies.
100%. Yep.
Yeah. Yeah, like oh my gosh, the old Dark House, that's so fantastic.
Oh, yeah. I was just on a satanic puppet show, rewatched that film, but my phone kept cutting out. But they were great too. Yeah, I was really familiar with him until then, so I have to look more into that collection.
Oh, nice. Yeah. So, Brandon, you talked about Hellraiser, and that's kind of a great sort of segue because, that also is made by Clive Barker, who is openly a queer man. And that's another one that was very, like, I saw it, I think, at kind of the right age, probably like 15, 16. Like when your like hormones are kind of raging anyways, and I had like the biggest crush on Frank, not Skinless Frank, but
I'll
the
take Skinless Frank. Hey.
but yeah, like it's so interesting because it's another film that for me kind of tapped into something that felt really raw and exciting and interesting. And there's the Cenobites that kind of have like that leather sort of situation going on, where it's interesting, John, because you were saying about the bondage whipping scene in Elm Street too. I mean, that's like something that I couldn't again put my finger on, but I was like, yeah, there's something about that I don't hate. So yeah, I think I'm fully okay with blaming Clive Barker for how gay I am.
I think Nightbreed is even more queer
Mhm.
than Hellraiser is too. And I think there's definitely more allegories in there for non-binary and trans people as well. I think the story of Nightbreed is absolutely fucking beautiful, and it really is like it is an allegory for homosexuality and everything in the LGBTQ and in between. And then the Christian right and just how it all plays out. The book Kabbalah is fantastic too, but I think that was Clive Barker's like fuck you to the right wing and Christians. In a very clever and beautiful way. But that movie is great. They finally released that director's cut. I know a lot of people had issues with it, but I think it's amazing. Really, really, really brilliant movie and story.
Yeah, that's actually a really great point, and that's another one that I kind of wish that I would have seen maybe a little bit younger. I came to that one a little bit like later than I did like the Hellraiser movies, but yeah, it's fantastic. I mean, it's definitely the ultimate like outsider. And unfortunately, we still find ourselves feeling like outsiders. It's a lot better now because we have a lot more of a community. Unfortunately, especially when the book was written, when the movie was made, we had a good community, but I feel like with the internet, that kind of like connects us more. I think that we, obviously we couldn't be doing this kind of stuff without it. So that's really great. And yeah. So what are some other like maybe like specifically like queer horror films that y'all like, or not like specifically queer, like very queer coded films? John, I'll kick off to you this time.
There's several many. I kind of made it a point to and there's a million more movies to see, but like to really try to see as many queer horror films as I can. And there's, I would say for me, like A strong one for me is Hellbent. I always feel weird saying that because that's the first movie I hosted, so it always sounds like I'm like plugging myself. But I I did host it for Here TV, but I thought it was pretty strong, despite it's got its problems. Like the cast is like four white straight guys, but at the time it was made, I remember like doing a deep dive on the research and stuff. They had a hard time getting people that wanted to be in the movie and whatnot. But I think for what it was and the time it was at, it's just a fun little slasher that, it is just a good time. But other movies that I really like. I don't know if you've seen What Keeps You Alive. Have you guys seen that? That
I've
one's
not
really
seen that.
that's solid. Like I went in there not knowing really what to expect, and it was a thriller, and then it some really good stuff in that. Bit is a really strong one that I was introduced to recently. So talk about really good trans representation. Like the lead there is a trans woman, and that's also very allegorical and strong for the times. And then a personal favorite subgenre, I don't know, sometimes they mix gay porn with horror, so that's always fun. So for the porno fanatics out there, go see LA Zombie by Bruce LaBruce. That's a fun little film that combines everything.
Auto
And
up with the dead too.
Yeah, exactly. I got that.
Yeah.
So those are really good ones for me. Another really good one is something called Thelma, which is kind of really cerebral and out there. And another fun kind of like locally made slasher one is Killer Unicorn, that I've seen here. Not so far away in concept from Death Drop Gorgeous, and even that again, like since Death Drop came out, like the first time I saw it, I reviewed it for Bear World magazine, and then since then, like I've been really just trying to push it out there and show it to as many people as possible, because that it just not because you're sitting right there, it's just it really delivers on so many facets for me. I love drag queens. I love genital mutilation. I love a final boy. There's just so many boxes checked in that one too. So absolutely. And I just couldn't be happier for the success you guys have found, like seeing it on Shudder. And I have it on DVD, and I have both versions of the VHS. It's like something I don't know. It's like something I've adopted as part of my whatever. So I'm always recommending it, and everybody who sees it loves it. So kudos on that. That's a very, very big accomplishment, and one of my favorite queer horror films for sure.
Well, thank you. I really appreciate that.
Yeah, I will 100,000,000% agree and echo that. Like it's a movie that I've been telling everybody to check out, support it. We definitely need / want more queer horror made by queer artists, and more genital mutilation, frankly.
Yes.
Now, John, you had a cameo recently, right, in a little indie queer horror film. Want to tell us a little bit about that?
I'd love to. I can't say much about what I did in it, but it was super fun. I was working with Sidekick Productions, which is run by the lovely Joshua Pangborn, and he is the series creator and star of Skeleton Crew and Demon Doctor, which I believe is streaming on YouTube. Been around for many years. And he made his first feature film called A Taste of Youth. And it's about someone that has a magical elixir that gives them their youth back, and they do anything to keep it. So ... And I was told I was allowed to say that I was part of it, but not to give away what I do in it. But suffice it to say, it was super fun. And this is a queer horror movie made by queer people, and it's also a very body positive, fat positive movie as well. That's one of something that me and Joshua really believe in, and try to push with our work, because bigger bodied people are still very much discriminated against, and that's seen as totally okay in this day and age, where we're kind of pushing to have everybody be respected and honored just for who they are and the body that they live in, and the same should be true of big people. So his art really pushes that. I don't want to say agenda because that sounds like a negative thing. It's just giving the representation that we don't have anywhere else. You know what I'm saying? Like that, it's rare you're going to find a big person as the star of a movie, and this movie is all like primarily queer, larger bodied people in the lead roles, and it's just a fun, bloody good time. Because you know what, I was amazed to see what the special effects guy Paul was able to do with very little. So keep an eye out for that. That should be out sometime next year.
Nice.
That sounds amazing. And gosh, that is so cool. When you say that it's very like body positive, yeah, that is unfortunately very much a thing in the queer community, where it's you have to have a certain type or be a certain kind of I guess like standard body standard. But yeah, that's great. I'm all for that. Yeah, that's so awesome. I'm definitely gonna like keep my eye out for that. And yeah, so yeah, gosh. So you can't say what you do in it, but was there any genital mutilation?
Not while I was on set, but maybe.
Yeah, no, that's great. And it's so cool, again, Brandon, to have you here, because I mean, you've actually like made a queer horror film, and it's so awesome to talk to somebody that's actually like walked the walk too. I mean, yeah, we love talking about these horror films, but you made one that is so awesome, and a really good one at that. So like it's always just so cool. And yeah, I just wanted to I know, John, you mentioned this, but it is on Shudder, and you all should check that out ASAP. I believe it's also on a lot of VOD like sites that they can like rent or buy that. And yeah, just support amazing art that you love. If you want to see more of it, I cannot stress that enough. It kind of like irks me when people like rip off like especially like little indie movies, because like if you want to support something, you do that with your wallet. Like that's kind of what we're doing here. Not only just talking really awesome horror movies, but we're bringing some awareness to an amazing nonprofit. And as you said in the beginning, like give generously. Like let's let's do that. But yeah, so Brandon, like we'll talk a little bit about your movie. Like how long did it take to film?
So to film, it took about like a little over 2 years. We did it on nights and weekends. Really just any free time we had, anytime spaces were available, we just jammed as much in as we could. It was just so low budget, like we didn't have the money to like rent spaces out for extended amount of time. So we just kind of did the best that we could. We were fortunate enough to live in a community too in Providence that's very, very queer, and we just had a lot of venues and artists and musicians that were very eager and excited to help us with our vision too. So I think like our biggest take home is never be afraid to ask. There's a lot of people out there that want to help you make these things and do these things too. A lot of people are in your corner and want to see these things get done. Yeah.
Nice. Now I don't recall. This is your first feature, correct?
Yes. Yeah.
Had you done short films before? I don't recall. Sorry.
Very, very low budget, like just garbage stuff. Thing we'll probably never see the light of day. It's still on like old school cassette, like back from the 90s, what we're filming on. So I don't think I even have adapters to that stuff anymore. But yeah, no, that was our first one. In the meantime, I made some music videos, collaborated on some music videos, and we're working on Saint.
They after you.
Finally found me. We're working on Saint Drogo now, which is our second feature full length. Pretty much same cast and crew. We have a new cameraman that's doing DOP. We're all kind of, since it was our COVID baby, it's a very small crew, so we don't really have like an actual director involved. We kind of taking turns doing it. Mike and I are the two main characters, so we try to do the best we can with while acting, and then whatever's going on behind the camera too. And Ryan is back doing sound and did a little bit of acting. He's doing a little bit of directing too. So this one's a pretty tight little project too, but it's almost done.
Nice. So yeah, speaking of that, what can you say? Can you say much about like what the general plot of that is?
Sure. So this one, it's totally very different than Death Drop. It's actually pretty dark. It's I'd say it's like a supernatural thriller, like folk horror kind of film. It's still very, very gay. You're probably gonna see a lot of nudity in this one. But yeah, it's in the vein of folk horror. It takes place in Provincetown in the off season about a gay couple that were having very similar kind of creepy, surreal dreams about one of the couple's ex-boyfriends, and they get freaked out and start looking for them and start uncovering things that are not what they expected.
Nice. Yeah, that sounds awesome. I think now you all had like a trailer or something that or like any like scenes or anything that you put online.
Yeah, so our Indiegogo is still up. So, and there's like a little like teaser trailer for that. We haven't done a whole lot of the special effects stuff yet. We have that's like our big thing we have left to do. So I think once we get some of that footage recorded, we'll probably make like an actual trailer. But for now, it's just like a teaser trailer of a lot of the footage that we've recorded already. The movie itself is about like 90% done filming. We're just waiting on some special effects stuff, which is always a headache, but worth it. But it's getting there.
Nice. Yeah, that's awesome. And just to kind of like pivot a little bit, it's funny, John, you said about like queer horror and porn. I actually thought you were going to say Knife Plus Heart. Have you all seen that one?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Oh my gosh. How good is that? I was completely floored by how amazing that was. It was funny because our last live stream, we had David Del Valle on, and he was not a fan of that, which is fine. I respect him immensely, but yeah, gosh, I have to disagree with him on that. I think it's such an incredible movie. It's one of those like it surface level. It's very much like style over substance, but when the style is that kind of amazing, like yes, please. May I have another? So great.
I love the lead actresses too. I think they both did a really good job. I really enjoyed them.
Yeah, and it's definitely one of those that like it has such a palpable kind of mood, and like the eroticism in it is not like completely. I mean, it's there without, I think, going like completely too over the top or kind of absurd. Which I think is kind of like a fine sort of line to walk. Yeah, like it's so incredible. I know that like I promise this is not sponsored by Shudder, but I love them and I'm going to talk about them anyways. They have like a whole curated kind of queer category, and I believe that's still on there, right? Like that. Yeah. Okay.
I think so.
Yeah, and Death Drop Gorgeous, of course, is part of that. So awesome.
There's a little movie called Lyle that's on there too, and I remember that coming out years ago, and it's kind of just on YouTube, and it's really, really well done. It's about a lesbian couple. It almost has like some Plansky-ish vibes to it, but it's like super indie. The acting in it's fantastic. I like the story a lot too, but that's found its way onto Shudder too, which is awesome. It's well deserved.
Nice.
Yeah, that's a good one. It's like lesbian Rosemary's Baby,
yeah.
Sort of like. But it's really good. It's solid.
Yeah, no, they have. That's a really good one. Yeah, it's funny because maybe this makes me a bad gay, but like I feel like it's only like during Pride Month where I really like push myself to watch more like LGBTQ stuff, and
there's not a whole lot out there. That's the problem.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's definitely getting better. Like one of the things that I kind of want to talk about was what you all think about the Chucky series, and if you all like love it as much as I do. John, what do you think of the Chucky series? Have you seen that? Are you into that?
Oh yeah, definitely. I went out of my way to be able to watch it, so and it delivered. I mean, you put Jennifer Tilly in anything, and I am very happy to watch. There's something about her. I don't know. She's literally someone that could like read the dictionary, and I'm there for it. I love that. I love that baby doll voice. I love her look. I love that she's like a lesbian icon. I just give it all to me. Like, but Chucky was really well done. I was impressed because I thought they were really going to bitch out on us because it was on like a basic cable network, which is fine. But I just thought they were going to cut like yeah. I mean, the kills were tame for Chucky, I guess, but that really didn't take anything away from me. I was more glad that the language was there because I looked to Chucky for like just his one-liners and just the scene with the kid about like when Chucky talks about his kid Glenn Glenda and how like he's not homophobic and that's really monstrous. I thought that was really poignant and cool, and I'm glad they got that out there. And I love Don Mancini for pushing Chucky to the places that he always wanted to, because it's like he's been at the helm of it from the beginning. So it's one of the few franchises out there that have outstanding continuity. The story, goes weird places, but it all makes sense in that world. And Seed of Chucky, if we're gonna like, I don't care what anyone thinks, that's my favorite of the series. I don't care. My hero's in it. He gets his face burnt off with some acid. You put John Waters in it. I got nothing bad to say about it. Looking forward to season 2.
Great. Brandon, what do you think of the Chucky series?
I enjoyed it. Chucky's not my go-to. I did enjoy all the films. They're fun. Like I'll watch them. I love Jennifer Tilly. I love Brad Dourif. I thought his daughter did a really good job. He's just a fantastic actor who never ever gets any fucking credit. He's been in so many movies. He's so talented. Um, I I'm not the biggest fan of series. I think that's the problem. I can't sit through series. I start losing my mind after a while. I just wish that like there'd be a trend where these series were shorter. I feel like any series that comes out on any of these streaming services could shave off 2 or 3 episodes and make things more like compact and concise. I think it would do justice to all these series. But I think they did a good job. Devin Sawa is totally bangable at all times, as both his characters. He did a good job too. I'm glad he's having this like really weird resurgence, which is awesome. Yeah, no, it was for what it was. It was good. I think there's a lot of message in there for younger people that I know that like that hit a younger audience. I'm glad that they're seeing. So especially with like the queer characters in there. I got more excitement seeing how excited fans were for the series. A lot of people on Twitter were very, very happy about it, and that made me happy. So anything that's gonna get horror fans happy and get horror out there, I'm all about. So that was nice to see.
Yeah, I definitely agree with both of you. It's a really fun series. Yeah, I was completely floored. That was one that I kind of was lucky enough to review, I guess, last fall. And yeah, it was so interesting because sometimes when you get like screeners, they'll like give you a heads up that like the effects aren't completely finished or something, like you're watching it in like this kind of interesting raw state. So like there was a guy like in a black suit, like in a black bodysuit that was like puppeteering Chucky
That's awesome though.
in the version that I saw initially. But yeah, no, it's really fantastic. And it kind of chokes me up a little bit because I kind of wish that like I'm so glad that it's there for younger people now. But I was like, man, how cool would it have been for like that to have been a thing during our formative years.
Yeah.
It's another thing that I think this is a really interesting time for sci-fi channel doing like really good inclusional stuff, because they also have Ashton and Lily Save the Universe, which I love. It's such an amazing show. Have you all seen that one? Seen that show?
No.
Yeah, it's fantastic. It's 2 female leads. They're both amazing. funny as hell. And one of them is queer. So that's very awesome. And they're also both like a little bit more like bigger people. So I think like the body positive part of that is there. Which is fantastic. And you know, I was so happy that I actually got to like talk to the actors that play Ashton and Lily and like talk to them about like and just like let them know like how awesome it is just to see that kind of like representation on screen now. It's kind of it's like we have a long way to go, and I know that, but it's just so cool to see like people making these steps to like better representation. So
Yeah. I mean, there's so much out there right now. Like, I mean, for younger kids, even outside of the horror realm, like I don't know if you guys have seen it, and it's not normally something I would watch, but I watched Heartstopper on
mhm.
Netflix. My God, I like
Yes.
I was in my feels, like I loved it so much. But then, like more in our realm, they also just launched a lesbian vampire series called First Kill, and I haven't watched it yet, but just looking at the trailer and reading the description, it seems like a modern day kind of lesbian Buffy and Angel storyline, sort of.
Nice.
So and Buffy was my fucking jam growing up. Just to put that out there. Like but yeah, these kids got a lot of good stuff. Now, I mean, even Scream has their first queer character now, you know, like that's cool, you know. It's I don't want to say golden age. They have to prove themselves, but it's really great to see the representation coming fast and furiously right now. So they're really making an effort, and not only queer representation, but like, you know, racial representation. Like they're really making strides there. So it's really good to see. You love to see it. So
And like proper representation too. There was a period recently where I felt like they're just tacking these characters in there just to have their check boxes filled, and it's actually kind of gross. There's a few films, I won't say the names of, that are horror, that like had gay and characters and minorities, and I felt it was such an afterthought, and it was kind of embarrassing, and I actually got angry about it. Like, this is some bullshit. But I think some of the standout highlights, like you said, I think Scream, I like that, like it wasn't primarily that she was a lesbian. She was just a character that likes women, which is great. I think the Fear Street series,
oh,
not really, not for me. Like, I enjoyed them. I think definitely, like, I get why people like them, but I thought they did a fantastic job of having that character be a lesbian. She doesn't end up with a guy. She's not bisexual. She like loves women, and like all the characters around her don't care. It's like not even a thing. And like I think that's important too, to have show these other characters that don't care that this character is queer. I think that's important to it. That comes with the representation. I think it's showing, hey, this is not a big deal. She has a girlfriend. We don't care. So I think that stuff is important, and I think it was handled really, really well. And in Scream too. I think both those films did a really great job of that. And I hope we see more of it. I'm tired of this Hollywood like checkbox bullshit where you get these limp-wristed, well, not limp characters that don't matter, and you know it's just an afterthought, and you know they're just, you know, trying to look woke, and it's the opposite. It does the opposite for me. I think you look like assholes doing it.
Yeah, no, that's a great point. And you know, while we're, you know, expressing some like wants, I think that we just need to get rid of this like bury your gays kind of trope, which unfortunately I still see. I feel like there was something kind of, I can't remember right now because I probably just pushed that out of my brain, but it was like something like super recent too, where it's like I'm like, guys, we're still doing this. Like I hate.
The Haunting of Bly Manor got a lot of flack for burying its gays.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that's the
Um,
one you were thinking of.
it probably was because I know I really like that series, but I feel definitely a certain kind of way about that. But yeah, yeah, I agree. It's definitely not like we're not in a golden age yet, but we're definitely heading in a good place with that.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's you know, I definitely am liking this, that I'm seeing a lot of more like body positivity too. Wasn't like horror, but I'm coming off of like Tribeca right now, and there was a pretty interesting film called Nude Tuesday, which it's really weird. The whole thing is in like a made up gibberish language, which sounds really weird because it is. But it's kind of cool because it has a bigger person that is of color and queer, and like they don't ever make him like the butt of the joke, or I think, you brought up a really interesting point about how like I like these characters are just incidentally gay. Like it's not like it's brought up because you need to establish that, but it's not like when we were growing up and they had the very special episode where it was like something, of course, awful happened to them because they were a queer character or something. Actually, it's funny. Well, this kind of ties into the shirt that I'm wearing. You can't see it, but it's
I have that same shirt.
Oh, nice. But yeah, the Golden Girls kind of had some really excellent, I think, queer characters that it was still a very special episode, but it was the heart was in the right place. Like I believe I'm trying to think.
There's quite a few episodes. There was like one of Dorothy's best friend being a lesbian, and Blanche's brother is gay, and he comes out a couple times. But like it was just handled so masterfully, like especially for that time. It was really, really well done. I don't know. There was some dialogue there. I think like at one point, like Dorothy asked her mom, like, "Well, what would you do if I ended up being gay?" And just like the response was just like, I remember seeing that as a kid and be like really touched by it, and I think it still like rings true to this day. So it's they were just so ahead of their time on every issue. I give them so much credit. That show is just flawless. It's just best character development of any sitcom. So it's just so well done.
Agreed.
Yeah, there is a really great gay YouTuber that does these deep dives into these shows. Matt Baum, have you guys heard of him or any or? Check him out on YouTube. He's got a really fantastic channel where he deep dives these episodes and talks about them in a really interesting kind of deep dive. John, he does a really fantastic episode about the Simpsons John Waters episode that you would definitely probably really dig, which is really fantastic. But yeah, it is really great. Like when I was interviewing, so I also with Astrid and Lily, I got to talk to the lead writer and like story editor. Well, she's a writer and story editor, and I kind of got choked up in the interview a little bit because it kind of hits me that like, man, it's like so amazing how we have this kind of inclusion, and I always am I'm grateful, don't get me wrong, but I'm also super jealous that like we didn't have that very much of that. Like I remember like one of the early kind of queer characters that I could remember was My So-Called Life. Do you remember that show?
Is it Ricky?
Yeah. Ricky, yeah.
And I'm correct in saying that he is queer in real life too, right?
Yeah.
Wilson Cruz,
yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he's on one of the new Star Trek, right?
Yeah.
Star Trek. Yeah.
They handled his character really well too. It's nice to see like an effeminate male like be such an awesome character too, because like there's just so much femme shaming. Even like as progressive as like Will and Grace was too, I still feel like they're kind of doing a lot of just like stereotyping and making these characters just kind of like almost insufferable, where like yes, men can be feminine, but they're not always going to be like this. So it's nice to see someone like Ricky that was kind of on the opposite end of things, that wasn't rich. I think that they handled it really well with him.
Yeah. No, that's really interesting because I am like not up on Star Trek, so that's good to know.
Me either. That's why I was like, he's on Star Trek. I think, and I believe he's playing a queer character on Star Trek as well. I think like nice. His relationship is one of the lead storylines. I think. I mean, I'm not sure, but he's still working. Good old Wilson Cruz, and a man of color at that. So good for him. Because it's true. It's like you were saying. like like just representation for representation's sake. Like, that's a good point, Brandon, like for sure. And as much as I love my Halloween series, I do realize Big John and Little John were just afterthoughts. But they were just there. I totally get it. I was just like, I'll give them the win slightly just because I guess there's a gay character in Haddonfield. But yeah, they were just kind of there. I have blinders on when it comes to my Jamie Lee and my Halloween series, but
Are those two actors? Are they gay in real life? I don't.
I don't think so. I don't think so. But yeah, so that's a good example of not great representation. So yeah, they're working on it, I guess. But
There's an
Scream
opportunity there,
nailed it.
though.
Yeah, maybe in Halloween Ends, who knows? But I doubt it.
I mean, they could just hire you. I mean, I'd be all for that.
You know what? I wish.
Make it happen. We're gonna put that in the universe.
You're gonna lip sync to some Anne Murray in the. I think that's the song he was singing in the Halloween Kills.
Yeah, I am Big John. Let's do this. Come on.
Although I will say one thing I will say about that is with the whole Big John, Little John thing is it was really interesting to hear a lot of people coming to those characters' defense and like that they really enjoy those characters. And I mean, it's one of these things where again I can kind of see both sides of that argument. Like I mean, I found it kind of cringy, but then again, I'm somebody that's maybe a little bit of an apologist as well. I try to like overlook some stuff that's like maybe not great, but I mean, again, it's interesting that like people really liked that couple. And I guess spoiler alert, but they both die, don't they?
I mean,
they're like killed pretty horrifically.
Yeah, but at the same time, the one thing I took from it was that Michael arranged them in a loving way. Like when the bodies are discovered, they're in like their wedding photograph pose. So I was like, oh, Michael's an ally. So we'll take that from that scene. Like,
yeah,
it wasn't that they were gay. It's that they were in his fucking house. So
it's funny. Like I feel like the majority of my straight friends like those characters, and the majority of my gay friends not like those characters. So that was interesting phenomenon that happened, but
yeah, it's like no, I mean it's again it's sad because sometimes I think that we sort of at least I am not to speak for anybody else, but like it's kind of like for a long time it was like I would take what I could get as far as like seeing some of myself on the big screen or the small screen. But I mean, yeah, I think that with like shows like Ashton and Lily and like Chucky, it's awesome because like we're finally getting there to I mean, I think it's amazing for especially like younger people to like see themselves on the big screen, on the small screen,
also
like again, we didn't really have that like growing up too much, so it was like pretty awesome. But yeah, so I think we are probably going to wrap up pretty soon. But man, it's been so amazing just talking to you guys. Another shout out to Death Drop Gorgeous, and you all should check it out. It's amazing. Also, you can find John. He's the creator, as I said before, the creator and the actor behind Stan the Mechanic, and you can check him out on Twitter at Stan the Mechanic. And then also, your website is just stanthemechanic.com, correct?
Yes, and up on the website, I have 3 films that I hosted that are in the public domain. So if you are interested in what I do, it's all like it's sex jokes and silliness. I take heavy inspo from I would say a meeting of Elvira and Joe Bob. At least I try in that respect, just to get some information and and show my cleavage as much as possible. But yeah, and then the first 3 movies I hosted, I believe it's still up on Here TV. And I believe if you use code STAN666, you'll get a free month. And then so you could check out those movies. On that network, I hosted a bunch of short films from queer directors, Hellbent, Birthright, and David Dakota's Voodoo Academy. Honey, you haven't lived. Let me tell you, you have not lived until you've seen that. So
yeah, that's amazing. Yeah, so you all should check that out. And then whenever this goes up, like later on just our YouTube channel, I will put all that stuff in the description, so it'll be easy to find, and definitely check that out. So guys, thank you so much again. Boy, this has been amazing. I know we talked about a lot of really cool stuff and just stuff that you all are doing. So again, I really appreciate you hanging out with us at Return of Living Geeks for a good cause. So
yeah, thank you. Thank you for having me. Happy Pride, everybody. Give to the Ali Forney Center.
Yeah, thank you. This is a blast. I'm just psyched that there's people out there making queer content. So keep it going.
Yeah, definitely.